This week on Inside MMA. Fresh off his KO over Big Nog, Cain Velasquez joins UFC light heavyweight Vladimir Matushenko and Special Forces trainer Amir Perets on the panel as Kenny and Boss preview WEC 47. Ron Kruk sits down with MMA legend Renzo Gracie and the best fight highlights on television. This is Inside MMA.
Come inside MMA. I'm Kenny Rice, joined as always by the pounder of public relations, that is Boss Rutan.
That would be something, right? You got to take my guy. This guy just wrecked somebody, man. He nearly killed a dude. You got this peace project going on, right? Can you put him up for it? He's great for it. You know, the combination doesn't really work, like real violence with peace. I tried to bring that over.
Give peace a chance as long as you got a big punch like
All
Boss.
we're saying, that's it.
What a show we have today, and here they are. Cain Velasquez coming off that huge victory. I am predicting that very, very soon you get that title fight in the UFC. Welcome, Cain.
Thank you for having me.
Vladimir Matushenko is getting ready to take on Elliot Marshall coming up later this month in the UFC. We welcome you back, Vladdy.
Thank you.
And this is a guy, and I've heard more about Krav Maga, honestly, since I've met you. And I'm giving you all the credit. Amir Perets joins us once again, who formerly trained the Israeli Defense Force. You can see him now on the National Geographic Channel, as we will, in just a matter of moments.
Thank you for having me back. Great to be here.
All right, great to have you guys. So we have two established fighters in the UFC. Amir has been around fighters in all organizations, as is Boss. And this leads us to our talking point to get everything started off today. That is the state of mixed martial arts. What do you think about it, we asked the MMAJunkie.com poll. The biggest problem, is it the lack of competition among top promoters, low disproportionate pay among fighters, difficulty in health insurance, long-term health effects, lack of a fighters union, poor management and representation, or the social stigma, the fighter stereotype? I would have to say a little bit of all of the above. Here is what you said, the fans, as the number one problem. That is the low disproportionate pay among fighters as the top, and then the lack of competition among top promoters as the second thing out there that concerns all of you. I would say that both those are right there.
I know they throw it all in that way, but I say injuries, right?
Yeah.
I mean, all that drops away if you get injured.
And
so I know it's a different what we're talking about, but that should be mentioned, I think. First.
And as far as you guys are concerned, Cain, let me start with you. I mean, obviously you fight in the one organization that has no trouble getting publicity, that has no trouble, I'm guessing, paying the fighters in the UFC. But, you know, you've been around the sport, you have friends, and you've seen people fight in these other organizations. Is it fair to say that sometimes out there that the lack of competition among the promoters and the pay that some of these guys getting, is that the biggest problem?
I wouldn't say it's the biggest problem. I think it's always going to be growing, just like the sport's growing. When the sport's growing so big, the pay will grow with it. The bigger it gets, the more people see it. It'll constantly get bigger. It's just going to keep growing and growing.
Vladimir, what do you think about the state of MMA right now?
Same thing. I was kind of thinking differently back in the days, but right now I understand it more and more, and I'm proud to be with UFC right now. And I think the more fighters get paid just by put up the better fights. That's the only way to do it. If the fighters become better fighters, they put the better shows, the more promotion makes money, the more they're going to share and put it into it.
Yeah, altogether, I agree with Bas. I think safety is the main issue. Where you can get the health insurance, you can get the fighters covered when they're training, if anything happens to them, if an injury happens to them. Altogether, all those issues are great issues, but, well, of course, better pay and everything else, but I think safety is the main concern.
They mentioned Fighters Union got 15% of the votes. Again, I don't ever see this happening.
It will never happen. Didn't happen in boxing. And to come back also over, we need more big organizations, just like in boxing. We need like 2 more big organizations. When that happens, competition starts, then the pay from the fighter also will increase, of course. Yeah. Right now, it's just, they don't need to because everybody apparently wants to be on TV
there's
for
two
nothing.
Different scales of paying by promoters and paying by sponsors. So I believe the union may not happen as far as be with promoters, deal with promoters, but from sponsorship standpoint, it definitely can be some kind of bargaining because some fighters take less money as a sponsorships money, and then other fighter cannot get it from saying because they say, hey, we just paid $550 to this guy, why we have to pay a few $1,000s?
And you are now and forever will be an International Fight League champ. Are you making more now than you did in the International Fight League? Not in terms of what you do in the ring, but as far as your endorsements. Do you get better endorsement deals, obviously, in the higher profile UFC?
Yes, I do better endorsements right now, but again, it was a few years ago, and right now MMA is getting more popular and more popular, so it's hard to say, is it because I'm with, what organization it is, because right now it's MMA itself just got bigger.
Yeah, but it's like you said, endorsements for sure. Big organization, bigger endorsements.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously that is the one that everybody knows is the UFC. And Kane, you're in line to become a champ in the UFC, at least get the title shot in the UFC. What have you noticed as you keep winning about the popularity of yourself within this sport, in terms of people coming up to you or dropping you notes and saying, I saw you when you were the All-American wrestler at Arizona State, way to go?
Yeah, it's just growing. I guess with every fight, more people are watching. Just get recognized more. That's pretty much it. I mean, I would say Australia was probably like the craziest place that I went to, where as far as people recognized me out of the blue, and just the fact that it being so far away was kind of crazy. That a lot of people really knew about the sport, really educated about MMA, and just were really hungry for it.
And as we've talked about before, boss, many times, I mean, for the majority, I think, of the people out there that have come into MMA in the last 4 or 5 years, they consider the UFC MMA.
Yep.
And everything else they're trying to figure out. I mean, Strikeforce, I give them credit. They're getting more attention, obviously, with their deal. I think Bellator is going to get more attention with their network deal. But I think the fans have kind of nailed it for the most part. There's a disproportionate amount of pay for some of the fighters, but then again, some of these guys, sadly for them, they're with organizations that may only get 500 to 1,000 people paying to come and watch them fight. So how do you break up the money?
Yeah, that's very hard. It's very hard for a promoter also to start an organization, because to compete with all that, what are you going to do? Everybody says, we're here for the fighters. Like Affliction. We're going to pay the fighters more money, we're going to do this. Yeah, see what happened. It's not as easy as it looks like. I think that if somebody comes in, the Sheikh from Abu Dhabi, apparently he bought 10% of the company from the UFC for $100 million, so that's a good sign. Mixed martial arts is worth a lot of money right now for the UFC, actually, only. But does that mean if somebody comes in with a lot of money and he just starts an organization? What if a Sheikh comes in, I always thought, and he says, okay, I'm going to do a show, and you, instead of $250,000, everybody's going to get 10 times more money. You're going to get $2.5 million in your next fight if you come fight for me. I mean, who's going to stop him?
As long as it lasted long enough.
Listen, Vladimir, you would know best as a guy that's been in an IFL and Affliction. You would probably know his
guys
best.
Talking about health insurance and all that stuff, and IFL tried to do that thing, and it was a good thing to do, but can you afford it, or how long can you afford it?
That's what I'm talking about. If you got $1 trillion, that's what I'm talking about. What if a guy comes in who has money, is no object?
The thing I've noticed with most of these organizations, and we've covered a few of these that are now defunct, is that everyone wants to be the UFC immediately.
Yeah.
No one steps back and looks at how much red ink the UFC was swimming in until, about 7-8 years ago, and how fast this has grown since then.
Yep.
They don't realize the pain and the suffering and can we pay all the bills. I think most everybody wants that instant gratification, and that's what hurts a lot of organizations. We're going to start our organization, and we're going to be as good as the UFC within a year or two. It's impossible. I don't care if you do have $1 billion. Would you guys agree with that?
I agree, and I disagree with Boss, because it doesn't matter how much you money make when you get in. It's how much money. It's not how much money you have when you get in. It's that you make money or not doing it. And I think UFC does make money, and they get away with it. If somebody come with $1 trillion and they spend it in a year or two, who knows?
Yeah, but because if they're going to keep pumping money in, and if they're going to say, okay, we pay you 10 times, I'm just saying insane things right now, but 10 times, instead of $250,000, you're going to get $2.5 million. And he's just going to do that to all the fighters. And this company stays around. And suddenly there's 2 years and 3 years. People are going to go, you know what? I'm going to go to that organization. Because this guy got $1 trillion. He's not going to run out of money. And people are going to change their minds. Then the UFC is going to go, wait a minute, we're going to put some money in there. Then the competition starts.
Would you say the real key is don't spend a lot of money on 1980 heavy metal bands to be your lead-ins? Would just be a tip out there for any future promotions.
That's a safe one, right?
That's a safe one. But Kane, let's move on to Kane now, who's coming off that huge win against Nogueira in Australia before the largest crowd outside of the U.S. to ever see a UFC event. So, I mean, it was a huge, exciting night for you. You go into that fight as a confident fighter. How did you feel as that fight was going along, and what's it been like coming out now with that victory and a step closer to maybe getting that title shot?
I felt good in the dressing room. I was really calm, a lot calmer than my other fights. Got a really good warm-up in. When I went out there, I was just calm. I mean, the game plan was to try to beat Nogueira to every punch, stay on the outside, go in and out pretty much, and then, you know, look for the takedown if it was there, but not go down with him, kind of take him down and just, you know, let him go. The fight went well. I knew I was winning the stand-up. I didn't think that, you know, the fight would have ended up that way, the way it did. So, you know, it did, and I mean, I just had a lot of people come up to me, you know, in Australia. Well, me, my fiance, we stayed out there for a while and just relaxed, and a lot of people came up to us and were really excited about the fight and about the whole show.
There's a lot of talk now that if Shane Carwin, Frank Mir, something happens with them and they do not are able after their fight, the winner is injured and can't go on, that you get the shot at Brock Lesnar. Do you know this for a fact? What do you know about when and if you get that shot at Brock? And do you think that regardless of who wins the Mir Carwin fight, you should be the guy that gets the shot next at Brock?
No, I think those two guys have taken the right steps to be where they're at, and they deserve the shot. You know, I've heard, you know, just rumors that if somebody does get hurt, that I might be stepping in. So I'll be ready for that, definitely. I mean, that's the position that I want to be in. I want to be the champ, so I definitely want to fight the best.
But those are just rumors right now. Then Dana has not called you up and said, hey, you get the shot if something happens to Carwin or Mir in their fight, you're automatically in the shot. That's not established 100%?
No, he has not called me up and said that, but yeah, I've heard. So I'm just kind of, right now, you know, staying ready, and you know, we'll see what happens. But I mean, I would think, you know, after the Shane Carwin fight and Frank Mir, it would be a couple months afterward before, you know, they fight Brock.
All right, we know your next fight, Vladimir, coming up in a matter of days now as you get ready to take on Elliot Marshall in his home territory. Broomfield, Colorado is where you go for the UFC on Versus. So how's this fight setting up for you?
Well, it's going to be, well, hopefully this was going to happen. Last time I missed my fight, but yeah, I'm getting ready for that. The biggest thing, like a boss said, it's altitude, and I'm getting ready for it. I'm going to be there a week before. Also, I'm going to, you know, in a few days, going to train on a Big Bear. So I think conditioning will be the key point for that. Also, I got to watch out for his jiu-jitsu moves. He's very good at that, but otherwise, we'll see what happens.
You're on a streak, 10 of 11 you have won. That's hot. That's a hot fighter.
Yeah, I'm working on it, and again, like I said, it's a great time right now to fight, and we'll talk about past MMA and the future MMA, but right now it's a great time. It's history is happening right now, so I'm very excited.
Did you ever expect to go back to the UFC? If you would have looked at yourself like 2 years ago, you say, okay.
Well, yes, actually, yes. When I was IFL, it was kind of my step point. You know, I kind of quit for a year or two, and I want to test myself, and it was a great ground for me to be tested because I didn't have to wait for one fight a year, and you know, one fight a year. All my fights were scheduled, so it was. I would say it's a good warm up.
Yeah, and it's good to see also light heavyweight.
Yeah,
that's a perfect weight class.
And good exposure. They were on TV and HDNet.
Yeah,
that was great.
And by the way, Shane, I forgot to ask, who's doing your stand-up?
Javier Mendez and my other boxing coach, Wheatsy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Looks really good, man.
Thank you. Yeah, we just really worked on that game plan, and I think the thing for me was I was a lot less nervous for that fight. Not that I was super nervous for my other fights, but for this fight I was a lot more calm, which really helped. Yeah, it really helped my muscles just kind of flow.
It looked that way. I mean, you looked incredibly calm and confident.
I'm jealous, actually. Congrats.
We expect you to look that way.
That's
fighting, as you know, the guy that you're giving.
That's what I want to do exactly.
And you're giving 10 years to him. I'm sure that's been brought up a few times.
Yeah, but you've been there in that situation many times. Flat stuff his nails there. He's going to get a good ground and pound action going on. You know, it's very hard. He can be good in his submissions, but everybody knows.
I'm looking forward to be on my feet too, not just necessarily ground pound. The ground pound is easy to defend, and I think Elliot is, you know, master of that.
Yeah.
And I think he's looking forward to it. So.
Yeah. Following up both Vladimir and Cain in the last several fights they had, this is the kind of fighting style that you, as a fighter or as a person, you always worried about. It's constantly pushing the pace on top of you. It's like a dog on your neck, doesn't leave you. It's like everywhere, standing up, ground, just the no break, constant.
So you're saying if they went into Krav Maga, they would be naturals?
No, that's what the self-defense campaign.
And also an inspiration.
And Amir is doing just that now. He is a regular now on Fight Science. You can see it on the National Geographic Channel. Perhaps you already have. If not, here's a look at a self-defense technique that he demonstrated on the show.
Amir will try to disarm his attacker without getting shot.
Move.
Stay down, stay down.
The critical question is, will he shut down or defend himself? Instead of running, he chooses to fight back.
When you're attacked, adrenaline pours into your system. Through knowledge and experience, you learn to use it to your advantage.
Wow, that is good. That is riveting. That's like a great trailer in a movie, isn't it?
It is.
You say, I want to see this. I want to see this.
That's how we met. He had a pellet gun and he told me to shoot him when I saw him move. And everybody, the whole class stopped and started laughing. He said, "You really want to do this?" But there's no way I could do it. Yeah, he got it the whole time. And the worst part is he's got your gun pointing at you. You know, so, and it goes really that fast. You can fight it, you're not going to stop it. I'm never impressed with things like that, but it's quite amazing.
Amir, since we first met, about 3 years ago, I have noticed, and I'll give you all the credit for this, that, there used to be, you'd see a lot of karate and judo and taekwondo schools, and obviously they're still out there. But I don't think I've seen any more Krav Maga schools than I have in the last year. All over the U.S. when I travel around, somebody's got an ad for one.
Yeah, we've been traveling all over the world, and there has been a lot of exposure. And what the main thing is that people actually want answers. Now we live in a different times where the public needs to be a lot more aware. As in the case in the flight from Amsterdam, where a passenger had to jump on a terrorist who tried to detonate the whole airplane, whether if it's just the public that needs to be more alert to unattended bag or anything like that. In Israel, for instance, you leave an unattended bag in the airport, in 1 second someone will say something about it. I was lucky to participate in this show where we have such a bigger stage to pass a message to people that even though those are very dangerous situations, there are things you can do. There are things you can do in a point of disadvantage, such as a threat with a handgun when someone tried to hold you either as an hostage or take you somewhere where pretty much it comes down to choice. What choices do you have? You do nothing, you fail to begin with. Here, jump into the car, you're being kidnapped, or you just, someone just is starting a robbery or hijacking a plane or something, and you are the first victim. So fraction of second, knowing what to do, training earlier on responding, fraction of second can be a difference between life and death. And that's what we're trying to show and pass that kind of message.
Great show. It's on National Geographic. Be sure to catch Amir, and fascinating what you can do. I think all MMA guys are fascinated, even though they're familiar with Krav Maga. They're fascinated still how you do that.
I must stress, with Krav Maga, and for me, I used to compete in the past. I'm a former heavyweight champion of Israel, not close to that level. Those guys are great, but I've been training in mixed martial arts. I had the pleasure to help Bas attaining his heavyweight belt in the UFC. But altogether, that's what we do. We mix it up. We're trying to bring, the bottom line is to try to bring the best answer to the threats of today. Mm-hmm. And that's mixed martial arts, include Krav Maga, as well as the MMA sport.
All right, we're just a matter of hours away from a huge fight for the WEC bantamweight title. Brian Bowles will put his title belt on the line against Dominic Cruz, who was with us last week. This is going to be a huge fight, and you look at the undercard there. I think Torres, a lot of people are looking at that with Benavides, how well that's going to be. Jens Pulver, is this his last go-around? Can he get this fight? And then a bunch of alum here from the IFL, Torsavidius and Davis and Pawaszewski in there.
Oh, it's going to be an insane night. I mentioned now many times, I love the WC. This is, you watch fighters and they don't run out of gas. So like about Kane, when you see him fight, he's like one of those lightweight guys. They don't run out of gas, so they keep on coming. Very hard to handle people like that. And yeah, Torres Vicious. I'm really looking forward to that fight also. Elsie Davis, Jens Pulver back. You know, Javier Vasquez. Is it? No, it's a stand-up fighter here. Stand-up and ground.
Yeah. Darabedian was on our show last week. Who's fighting Palashevsky. It'll be a great fight. It should be a real solid card. Also, you can see it here on HDNet coming up March 12th at 10 Eastern Time. That will be Sengoku 12. We have the exclusive North American broadcast. Of course, it is Santiago. This is a rematch with Kalinov, who defeated Santiago. That was in a non-title bout, TKO in round 1, you might remember. This one is for the championship, though, that Santiago now holds. And also, Gono is on there. Marlon Sandro, he's always a guy that I enjoy watching fight.
Undefeated, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Gono is also... Gono, they made a good comeback after that kick in the face. I thought, ooh, this is going to get quite some difficulties coming back, because that's a heavy knockout. But he did great. Those Japanese guys, man, they're so tough. They come back. No problem.
So that's coming up. You can see it only here on HDNet. You can only see him here on HDNet as well. He's in the news cage each week. It's time for us now to go to Ron Kruk.
Hey guys, Jake Shields has won 13 straight fights, a streak that dates back to 2004. He finally captured a belt and some respect when he earned the Strikeforce middleweight title last November. Now the champ takes a giant step up in competition. Strikeforce has officially announced Shields will defend his title April 17th from Nashville, Tennessee against MMA legend Dan Henderson. The promotion delivers a triple play of title fights to broadcast television, as the show will air live on CBS. Two-time prize-fighting champ Dan Henderson attempts to add another title from another promotion when he makes his Strikeforce debut. In other bouts, 24-year-old champ and winner of 15 consecutive fights, Gegard Mousasi, makes his first title defense against undefeated rising star Mohammed King Mo Lawal. The two have been exchanging words.
He's confident, but I feel confident too, and I don't see any advantage that he has over me except his wrestling.
Gegard is Gegard, solid. He's been around the game for a while. Good stand-up, or accurate stand-up. Good ground and pound. All right, jiu-jitsu.
I'm going to work a lot on my stand-up. I'm going to train with Peter Arts, K1 fighter, a champion. I'm going to do a lot of wrestling. I'm going to make sure every time he's taking me down, I'm going to get up.
I ain't nothing to say, Gegard, you know what I'm saying? Hey, I guess chin up, hands down.
Rounding out the trio of championship bouts is a lightweight clash between current Strikeforce champ Gilbert Melendez and Dream title holder Shinya Aoki. This will be the first time the Japanese icon has fought in the United States. With 3 title fights potentially going the distance, CBS may only broadcast those bouts, but still may add a 4th. Sources have told Inside MMA that undefeated Bobby Lashley could be added to the event, and although his camp would prefer more time between fights, Herschel Walker may return to action that night as well. Strikeforce is expected to stage another event May 15th. According to his Twitter page, absent heavyweight champ Alistair Overeem may finally make it to the States to fight for the promotion for the first time since 2007. Overeem is likely to take on Brett Rogers, although there are conflicting reports whether it will be a title fight or not. And joining the promotion's already impressive stable of heavyweights is Andrei Arlovsky, who inked a multi-fight deal this week. Arlovsky is expected to compete on the May show and could face Antonio Bigfoot Silva. It's time now for Inside MMA Quick Hits. Josh Barnett has finally resurfaced. The veteran heavyweight has signed with the Dream promotion and is expected to make his debut at their next event, March 22nd. The group MMA for Charity is holding a benefit for the people of Haiti. On March 13th and 14th in Richmond, Virginia, a group of MMA superstars will hold seminars with all proceeds from the event going towards Danita's children. According to our friends at MMA Junkie, Michael Bisping may return to the octagon at UFC 114 May 29th. His opponent is expected to be Dan Miller, who has lost back-to-back fights. After months of negotiating, 41-year-old boxer James Toney has signed a multi-fight deal with the UFC. No announcement as to when he will make his octagon debut. And finally, expect kicks galore when kickboxers Pat Barry and Mirko Krokop face off at UFC 115. Barry is coming off a win over former training partner Antony Hardunk and recently spoke about his biggest fight yet.
Cro Cop is not an ugly fighter. He's a very technical, highly skilled guy, so he is going to bring out the best in me because I've got no choice. I've got no choice but to perform the best I've ever performed before, because if I don't, I'm going to get kicked in the neck. And guess what probably does not feel good at all? Death.
Thanks to Travis at MMA Scraps Radio for inviting me on last week to talk with Pat Barry, who, let me tell you, is still celebrating his New Orleans Saints winning the Super Bowl. Guys, back to you.
Thanks, Ron. We always encourage you to get more publicity. Now, as we move on to the big map, boss.
Oh, where are we going, Kenny?
I don't even know. We're going to San Jose.
Oh, my God. I know where that is.
I know where that is. Strikeforce Challenger 6 welterweight bout. Tarek Safadine taking on James Terry. Terry in the black trunks. Both these guys with impressive records.
Oh, yeah.
Safadine 7-2, Terry 7-1. Safadine looking very impressive here in the highlights. Terry staying right with him, goes the distance. Safadine wins for the 8th time, unanimous decision. Middleweight bout now. Paul Bradley taking on Luke Rockhold.
Oh, nice.
Rockhold in the red gloves.
Behind the ear, man.
Oh,
damage.
There it is. The right. He's down, but not quite out.
Oh, let's seal the deal here.
And he does.
Nice job.
In the first round.
I like it.
Rockhold. What a name, too. Luke is now 7-1. TKO.
He rocked him or he's got him in a hole. That's a great MMA name. Rockhold.
Rockhold. Middleweight bout. Here's a name. Trevor Prangley back in action, taking on Carl Amuso.
From South Africa. This guy's also very tough. I'm talking about
Amuso has finished off his opponent's 10 of his last 11 victories.
That could be a finger in the eye.
And it is.
Yeah.
As Prangley holding on. They talk to each other. They call it a technical draw because of that eye poke by Prangley, and they ended in the first round. Now a 135-pound title bite. They call it a draw. Ladies in action, Sarah Kaufman, black trunks against Tukayo Hashi in the white. Kaufman coming in undefeated, only one loss for Hashi in 13 fights previous. And it's Sarah Kaufman going the distance and staying undefeated. Her record now goes to 11-0.
I got a letter. I said about the women fighting. They had a whole show. I said the women fights. They got great weigh-ins. Apparently, that shook somebody up. They didn't respect the tone. I love women fighting. Relax. If you can't handle that kind of pressure, I always say maybe that's not the right job for you, because what I said is nothing, right? Do you see anything in there?
I was very confused. See, I thought you were talking about Marlon and Damon when you're talking about the weigh-ins. But that's just me.
How great are women weigh-ins?
Who knew?
Oh, that's offensive.
All right.
You can't do anything nowadays anymore.
How great is it to promote yourself? Well, it takes a lot of that these days in the world of MMA. It doesn't hurt to be known. BJ Penn taking a step up on the national stage in something totally away from MMA. That and more when we come back here on Inside MMA.
Still to come, more from Cain Velasquez, Vladimir Matushenko, and Amir Perets. Renzo Gracie steps into Crux Corner, and MMA highlights you can only find here when Inside MMA returns.
Welcome back Inside MMA. I'm Kenny Rice. He is the legend Boss Rutan. We're glad that you're with us again another week. What a panel we have. Cain Velasquez still undefeated 8-0 with those 7 wins coming by knockout. Vladimir Matushenko getting ready to take on Elliot Marshall in UFC 21. The king of Krav Maga. You can see him now on the National Geographic Channel. And Amir Perets, it's always good to see you. So thank you guys for being with us. We're going to talk now about the visibility of fighters. Let's face it. If you put yourself in the public eye like we do on TV, and certainly these guys do in the cage or ring, it's nice to be noticed, and it does seem that the more you get noticed, it probably helps you out in your career as a fighter. And we've said this on the show many times. Boss has referenced it. If two guys are fairly even, the guy that's a little more flamboyant and has that Q factor, as we say in TV, in other words, recognizability, is probably going to get the shot at that fight. Recently, though, something that's never happened in MMA. Talk about a profile. BJ Penn becomes a news reporter on bjpenn.com. It happened after the Chilean earthquake and where there was the impending tsunami that was headed towards the islands of Hawaii, which is, of course, a home for BJ Penn. Penn stepped in to the reporter role on a huge level with CNN.
It was great. Great, nothing happened to anybody. And there we go. I want to thank Mayor Billy Kinoy for informing us. I want to thank all the fans for being on bjpenn.com. Thank you guys for supporting.
And I will say, credit to BJ. He was a solid reporter on that. And thank goodness that everything's okay in the islands of Hawaii. The tsunami threats that they were expecting did not happen in the severity that was predicted. So that's the best news. bjpenn.com. He said it a million times on the show. That was great publicity for him.
It was, you know. I wanted a plug from him also, and I gave him a call. He didn't return. BJ, what's going on here? That would have been a great plug now, too. See?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I like to see fighters take the initiative and show some character, such as that. Altogether, of course, nothing beats great performance. When you go up and on the big stage and perform very well, you capture the eye. But I see a lot more people take the initiative and use Twitter, use Facebook, promote themselves, show some character, show some the way they walk to the ring, they draw attention, and it says, oh, well, you know, this guy's likable, easy to promote, so the promotion likes you and gets you in. So that, together with, of course, good performance.
That's where the money is.
Also, it's a good way to not just, like you said, promote yourself. It's great, but also choose to say any message if you have to, especially if you have good message to say. So if you, for instance, myself, I'm a physical educator and I have my gym, and so if you have to say something good to people and be a good role model, I think it works out perfectly.
It's great.
And Kane, you're a low-key guy. For a guy that has a big punch, you're a pretty low-key guy. So I guess you could go to, you have a website, do you Twitter,
I have a Twitter. I haven't really started. The thing for me is when I started fighting, for me, I thought it was just train and fight. I didn't think about the other stuff that was.
It took you a few years to get there, but
the other stuff that we're going to be doing.
You have to have a good team and your manager, and including my son, he helps me out. He's a computer geek, but myself, I'm anti kind of technology, and but you have to do it. And
have you seen that?
Not just for, if you're not doing it for yourself, just do for other people. That's
yeah, you have to.
And is it fair to say, as we've talked about on this show many times, that if two fighters are basically equal, we're not talking about the top echelon of the UFC like Kane, but if two guys are basically equal and they're trying to get in the UFC or Strikeforce or a well-known organization, probably the guy that maybe has a little more publicity, even if it's brought on by himself, gets that shot. Is that right, Kane?
I think so, definitely. Just being known more in the media. I mean, I think the organization's going to think, this guy's a bigger name, people know him more, he's going to be drawing a bigger crowd. For me, it's always been stay out of the limelight for some reason. I think I'm getting better at it now, but it's just something I have to work on.
I think more people, there's a lot of fighters making way more money endorsements than they do in the actual fight.
Yeah.
That's where the real money is nowadays.
But also, I think it also have to be balanced, because, like, for instance, the fighters like King, he doesn't maybe use it 100% as he can be, but you can see mediocre fighters trying to promote themselves and they talk so much, and I'm like, what do you got?
Eventually, you got to be able to fight.
I think results speak for itself
louder
than anything else.
Fight once you say you can.
Yeah.
I used to know a guy who's dropping MMA all the time. I say, just become good. That's it. Yeah. People know you.
Go knock somebody out, then talk.
And with the raising of visibility, sometimes there becomes controversy in that. I don't want to beat this to death, because I know he's talked about it, but I don't think he's talked about it in this big form like we have now. But Kane, you know where I'm going with this. There's been so much controversy, for whatever reason, about your brown pride tattoo. Are you surprised by this, that people would consider this to be a controversial thing and wonder why you have this tattoo? And are you showing some racism by having it?
I'm not surprised by it. I don't think I'm showing any racism. I think people didn't grow up where I grew up. This is a word of like empowerment to, this is what we said to empower our people. The reason why I got it was two reasons. One, for everything that my dad did to get over to this country. He walked illegally to this country and he got deported back 7 times. He walked the desert here with nothing, no money in his pockets, nothing, just walked the desert, just try to come to the U.S. to get a better life for him and his family. And another reason is when I was growing up, I didn't have anybody to look up to that looked like me, that was my size. You know, there's boxers that were Mexican, but they were always smaller. So I never really had those dreams that I could, you know, be doing something like that on TV. I can be a sports star. I never had those dreams. So when I decided to get it, I just wanted to get it to really show, you know, that I'm proud of my people. I'm proud that, you know, we're known as hard workers for everything my parents did to get over for a better life for themselves, for me, and just to show people that, you know, I'm Mexican and I'm proud to be Mexican. Do
you think there'd be less probably talk about all this speculation? Were you a gang member or all this stuff? You've heard every allegation possible, I'm sure.
Yeah, I've heard it.
And let's give credit. A lot of them are on, let's not give credit, because a lot of them are on websites where nobody takes credit for saying these things. Yeah, it has to be true. But do you think if you'd had like Viva Mexico on there, there'd been less controversy, or Proud
Definitely.
Mexican, as opposed, because it gets a little dicey when you start talking white, black, brown, yellow, and skin color. Does that make sense? Do you think?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, if I got something like that, that would definitely be less controversy. But this is what we, you know, what we said for us. You know, we'd always say that.
But
brown
yeah, it's
pride.
a heritage. It's
yeah,
not
it's a heritage
necessarily
thing.
gang member. It's a heritage. It's like, you proud to be Dutch, right?
Yeah, but it's like I said, nowadays you can't say anything anymore. You can't enjoy women weigh-ins, right? That was that little example.
Well, here's the thing I've noticed about political correctness, and perhaps you guys too. I think it's great. You should treat everybody, if they will let you, like a brother or sister. And I really mean that. I don't think you should go out of your way to try to bring anybody harm. No. Unless you're getting paid to hit them like these guys. But seriously, I believe in that live and let live, but I think we've gotten so sensitive about everything that's mentioned anymore. It's gone the other way. The politically correct people are turning against everything that's mentioned that offends them a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Everything you see on TV is offensive to somebody. I mean, everybody has a voice now, and you can just see it where, you know, online or whatever. I mean, people are going to speak their mind and just say what they feel.
Exposure, a lot of people make a lot of assumptions. So all you got to do is ask. And when he explains, you see that there is nothing to it. Altogether, you have to communicate yourself the best possible, because a lot is going on as miscommunication.
Well, I think Kane just summed it up, and I don't want to embarrass you, but I think if they saw you with that beautiful baby, that's a side of the Cain Velasquez nobody will see. Until you keep getting more famous.
Yeah.
Until you get your own Facebook and your own Twitter.
Keep them out there, the kids. That's what I do.
All right. You might have heard of this family. They're called the Gracies. You heard of these guys?
No clue.
You heard of them? They're pretty big in MMA. Really? And one is especially, I think he's the flamboyant member, certainly, of the group. Would you agree with this?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
And he's coming back to the UFC in Abu Dhabi. He is getting ready for his return fight. He is a member of the first family of MMA. And in Ron Kruk's corner this week, let's go to the corner now with Renzo Gracie.
Renzo, it's been over 3 years since you last fought Frank Shamrock, and back then a lot of people thought that could be your last fight. But here you are, age 42, ready to go back at it.
On my way to my 43rd birthday, when I fight Matt Hughes, I actually will be 43. And I can't wait.
Well, you know, guys our age, they do go through, you know, midlife crises. Some guys will buy a car or something.
Yeah.
Apparently, you just get in the cage.
That's my middle-age crisis. I go back to fight, you know. My wife said that. She goes, buy a motorcycle, buy a sports car. Why are you going to say, but my middle-age crisis, I'm in the ring, you know.
Well, MMA fans are glad that you're going through this. Now, you fought in all the major MMA promotions throughout your career, and now you've signed with the biggest of them all, the UFC. How did this deal come about?
We were sitting on the table right next to our friend, the Sheikh Tahnoun bin Zayed, and they extend an invitation. What about you? Are you thinking about going back? I say, yeah, we can sign up right now with a handshake. And that's how it was done, you know. And I shook hands with Lorenzo, Frank, and Dana, and I was back in action. And I said, look, if I'm diving, I'm diving head first. So put up 6-fight deal with the right that you can fire me at any time.
How often do you want to fight?
The last time that I fought, I did 3 fights in 6 months. You know, like once I get in shape, I go in a row. I don't want to stop. And let's see how my body reacts. Let me see how I do against Hughes, and let me see how the fans like it. All this will depend on how fast the second fight will come about, you know.
What was it like dealing with Dana White during this situation? Do you guys have a past relationship?
Yeah, I know Dana for a long time. Long time. I think when he was a personal trainer, when he became to manage. So And he was always a great fan of the sport. He was always a guy. I do believe people perceive him very wrongly. He's a great guy.
And so let's talk about your fight. It's going to be in Abu Dhabi, a place that you have called your second home. What is your history there?
I have been, the Sheikh one time came to visit me here 14 years ago when I moved to America. And he came to my school. My school used to be at 27th Street, a small place. And he came over. He didn't tell me who he was, and he trained at the academy. He invited me over to dinner, and on the dinner he told me he was the Sheikh from Abu Dhabi, and he would like to invite me over to see his country. So I've been coming to his country for 14 years.
What was your role in getting the UFC to Abu Dhabi?
To be honest, I think it was much more than anybody could realize. I think I was one of the guys who actually kept the passion alive on the rulers of the country. All the dreams that I had to do it in Brazil,
right,
it ended up happening in Abu Dhabi, you know. And
so do you feel you'll have a home field advantage over there?
I have a home field advantage anywhere I fight. When I went to fight Pat Miletich in Iowa, on his hometown,
yeah. I remember it.
I remember when I walk in, I heard everybody screaming like this: USA, USA, USA. As I'm walking, I look at Luca, the guy who writes the Gracie magazine, and I go to him, how do they find out? He goes, find out what? That I became a citizen last week. Like actually a week before I became an American citizen. I say, how did they find? So in my head, they were chanting for me. You know?
That was so nice of the people in Iowa, wasn't it?
Yes, yes.
By the way, I still don't think I've recovered from when all your camp jumped into the ring after you did choke out Pat Miletich, and I was trying to get you to interview you, and it was one big party.
But you have to understand, like, it was one of the most beautiful scenes I have ever seen. You know, everybody that I knew was on that ring with me. You know?
Is there anyone that you really would like to fight one more time before you call it a career? Maybe a rematch or just for the first time?
I would love to fight Frank Shamrock, so we didn't finish our fight. I would love to fight him again. Sakuraba. I would love to lay my hands on Sakuraba. It would be a great match, you know? Maybe the UFC comes to Japan and maybe we can dance once again together, you know?
Great stuff, Ron. 2 weeks, Ron will continue in the corner with Renzo Gracie as they preview the fight against Matt Hughes. Meanwhile, let's get ready for some more highlights. First off, he is an NCAA champion. He trains with Brock Lesnar, and Cole Conrad gets ready for fights. Here's what he said about learning from Brock, though.
When you train with him, it's about technique. It's obviously not about power. You're not going to outpower a dude who's stronger than you. He is a very skilled fighter, so just day in, day out, getting to work with him makes a big difference. I have no problem going up there and standing up and banging and working some jiu-jitsu and stuff, but I mean, if a guy comes at me, he raises his level, I mean, I'm going to hit him with a blast double, run him straight to his back.
And he's just signed a deal with Bellator, but first he's fighting in the Matrix fights in Philadelphia. This is his second pro fight. Conrad not hard to see when he comes into the cage. This guy's huge. Taking on Joel Wyatt. Wyatt a 5-2 record. How big is Conrad?
Wow.
I mean, Wyatt's a good-sized man. Conrad gets him down. That's his strength.
Yeah, once he's on top, it's going to be hard to get up, right?
And he's able to keep getting in the elbows. There it is. It's called TKO 223 round 1. Cole Conrad on his way to Bellator now. Keep an eye on that organization. They keep sliding these guys in. They're picking up some pretty interesting fighters. He's now 2-0. Welterweight bout. Francois Ombang taking on Aaron Meisner. Ombang from Cameroon, Africa. He is 0-1, but, you know, that may be a little deceptive. Meisner's the hometown guy here who's feeling some pain.
See, but it started all with throwing a single kick and that gets countered. Set your kicks up with punches.
Meisner does. He's back up and he delivers the knee, and the kick and the punch.
That's mixed martial arts for you.
That's exactly why it's called that, isn't it?
Now we need the submission.
Oh, Oy, just missed with the high kick.
Yeah, that was like almost movie-like. That's just fell together.
Ombang looking impressive here, and this his third pro fight, 0-1-1 coming in. But he continues to hang in with Meisner, who continues to deliver a solid performance, enough so that he wins a unanimous decision. Aaron goes now to 4-2 with that victory. Welterweight bout. Levon Maynard taking on Matt Makowski. Makowski in the black, 5-2. These guys have fought each other in a kickboxing tournament earlier. Makowski won. So that was kickboxing. Now the whole thing, let's see here.
Yeah, it's harder to strike when you're on your back. Whoop.
Most of this fight would stay on the ground. A long way from their kickboxing days, isn't it?
Yeah.
Going for the choke. And it's Makowski escaping that. He goes on to win by unanimous decision. And wait.
There's more.
There's more. Atlantic City New Breed Fighters at the Resort Hotel and Casino. Welterweight bout. Dave Concepcion, not to be confused with the former Cincinnati Reds shortstop great, taking on Sam Oropeza. Didn't want anybody to think that there was another former, pro athlete switching over to him. That is the shin in the face. Oropeza welcoming Concepcion to the pros. Wow.
Hurts me.
Oropeza going 3-0. Concepcion will not forget his debut. Impressive kick 9 seconds into the fight.
Why do I
Here's
think
the
about
welterweight title bout. It's Dennis Olsen taking on Mike Dolce.
Oh, nice.
Dolce, the shaved head, and he's got the big punch. Oh, but so does Olsen.
Yep, that's, guillotine, that doesn't look good.
A lot of blood.
That's the blood. This was in the third round when it was finally finished. Olsen wins for the 9th time with the guillotine submission, 3:17 into round 3. And he takes the welterweight title. This is Dante Rivera taking on Herbert Goodman. Rivera in the red and black trunks. Well, both guys are in the red and black trunks. That's Rivera trying for the slam, and he gets it.
Nice takedown there. I wonder if he still trains with Henzo. He used to train there. He fought for the IFL too, right?
Yeah, he fought in the IFL. Another guy out of the Gracie system. But look at Goodman's able to come right back. Gets the reversal, got a couple of decent punches in along the way as well.
Nice there, back door. Forgot to lug the legs though. Little cross face action here, pull it out. Wow, this is going back and forth.
They go. They just keep going. And this is near the end of the fight. Goodman's able to get in those punches. Maybe that was enough. Although he does win by unanimous decision, Herbert Goodman goes to 13-7.
Nice job.
And we go now to toe-to-toe with El Guapo. Here is the first question. First off, John from Huber Heights, Ohio, thank you for the nice words. We're huge fans of all of our viewers. And now, boss, can you tell me the difference between a KO and a TKO? And he talks about Kane's recent win over Nogueira seeming like a KO, but it goes down as a TKO. So, what is it?
It is a knockout. When I thought when a fighter goes down, he's not able to be standing anymore, that's a knockout. So I looked it up just to make sure, and that's what they call it's the New Jersey Unified Mixed Martial Arts Rules. When you failure to rise from the Kansas is a knockout. I called Joe McCarthy on top of that. I check everything twice, triple, 3 times. And he said when a fighter is not able to defend himself anymore, it's considered a knockout. In Packers, though, in Japan, you really have to be unconscious. The mistake is made by the commentators. You won by knockout.
And one thing for sure, too. Let's end this submission by way of strikes. That's a TKO.
That's a TKO.
And 90% of the time we've seen it, it's because the ref was too late to get in there, and the guy getting pummeled had to say, I quit, when it should already been stopped because the TKO, the guy's hit enough that it's impeding his progress. Thank you. Great question, John in Ohio. Now let's go to this one. Mark in Madison, Wisconsin. El Guapo, I have a 3-year-old girl already showing interest in martial arts. I was wondering what age would be a good age for her to start.
Any age is good age to start. If she likes it, she enjoys it, I say go right ahead. Problem you're going to have is finding a teacher who teaches really young kids, because that's difficult. I think at this age, it's up to you. You teach us some basic things like triangle choke, just really simple things. Go paladas. No, simple stuff in the gun. They look at me like, yeah, really. Simple stuff, you know, balanced positioning. I would go with stuff like that. Pushing, let them push you away the whole time, so they're aware of their back foot on the floor when they push you away with the right or with the left, that the power comes from the back foot. Little tricks like that.
All right, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for sending in your questions. And that brings us now to split decision time. Guys, are you ready? This is it. Just one-word answers for the most part.
Who against who?
Who's going to win this?
No pressure.
Does Brian Bowles keep his title, or does it go to Dominic Cruz? What do you think, Kane?
I think Brian Bowles.
Vladimir?
I agree with that one.
Amir?
Is Dominic as the underdog?
Yes.
I'll go for the underdog.
That's the way you are. I like that. If I could take guns out of people's hands, I'd be that way too. Now, should Kane get the next shot at Brock? What do you say, Amir?
Very much so. I followed him up, and he's one of the guys that when you see him perform once, you right away you see how promising he is, and you really want to see him again. I think he deserves it right away.
Vladimir?
Yeah, I think definitely. But my question is, what happened to Brock? What's
Well,
the
we're
latest on
assuming
him?
that Brock gets healthy and all that. Kane, do you get the next shot? Should you get the next shot?
No, I think the other two guys, Carwin and Amir, the winner of that should get the
I'm
shot.
going to come closer with fear that knowing you could knock me out at any given time. See, you got to get that Twitter and that Facebook thing going, they tell me.
Yeah.
You got to get your own website and promote yourself more and say, yes, I deserve the next title shot. See, if you say it enough out there, they'll start telling that.
Okay.
What a gentleman, though. That's
Very humble, very humble.
See, he's very humble. You know, that is the makings of a champion, too, I always think. A guy that is good and doesn't have to proclaim to the world that he is good. I know I'm kidding, don't you? Because when this show ends, I want you to know that. Okay, now help us out. Highlights of the week. Here it is. Guys, we're going to give you 3 choices, and here they are. Let's go back. Strikeforce challenger, number 6, San Jose, California. Luke Rockhold against Paul Bradley, and Rockhold ending it with the TKO. Knees to the body.
Knees to the body. Gotta love that.
Oh, that's tough. That guy's tough.
Great name, too. We were talking about it.
Sam Oropeza, the new breeds fighter in Atlantic City, taking on Dave Concepcion and ending it 9 seconds in with the KO head kick.
Hard to compete with that also.
Ooh.
Nice.
Oh, got that knee right there. Ooh, that is wicked.
Yeah.
You should show him some defense, boss.
Or is it Dennis Olsen and Mike Dolce, also in the new breeds fighter in Atlantic City. Dolce getting some punches in, but Olsen getting in bigger punches and then ending it by the guillotine submission late in the 3rd round.
Using the slippery blood. Wow.
All right. Kane, you were the highlight of the week last week. I'm sure you watch every week and you knew that, didn't you? You were our highlight of the week for knocking out Nogueira. Who's the highlight this week, Kane, of the 3 fights you saw?
Luke Rockhold. He's one of my teammates, so definitely give it to him.
Vladimir?
Yeah, I like second one. That's definitely knockout.
You like Oropeza with the kick to the head.
And the boss can give him a private lesson how to
Amir?
defend.
How to block.
Well, I'm contemplating between the 3rd and the 2nd. The 3rd, great submission, but I'm going to go for the 2nd one.
Okay, so a nod there to Oropeza for the great leg kick to end his fight. Wow.
Nice. I like body shots too. Like kick to the head is great. It's like a hole-in-one, but a body shot is nothing worse than when you got hit by a body shot, you go like, oh no.
What about a liver kick?
Oh, now you're talking my kind of language,
liver kick.
buddy.
And a shout out to Kareem in Atlanta who watches our show. Met him on the plane a couple weeks ago. Nice guy. He appreciates the liver kick.
Oh, I like it too.
All right, guys. Great to see you, Amir. Continued success. We can see you on the National Geographic Channel.
Yes, I'm going to try to continue and appear wherever I can and get the exposure, same way, and continue to travel the world and teach militaries, law enforcement, and civilians. It's for everyone.
Great to see you again. Vladimir, best wishes. You're taking on in Marshall a tough opponent. That's coming up in a matter of days.
Thank you.
All right, and Kane, we'll be in touch with you and see how soon that title fight comes about.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations with all the success. Thank you for being with us. Remember, this is the madness that is March, and you can see college basketball action here coming up on March 15th with the College Basketball Invitational on HDNet. And then, of course, we are your
home
for
MMA.
So join us again next week. Inside MMA, we'll be throwing a lot of punches with boxers. I'm Kenny Rice.
And I'm Boss Rutten, and what do I always say?
Always says it.
Godspeed, everybody, and party on. I can't forget the whoop whoop, because people told me not to forget.